Think you remember these UK movie stars from the 70s, 80s, and 90s? Welcome to part 2 of our ultimate challenge. We'll show you what they look like now, and you try to guess who they are before we reveal their younger photo and name. If you missed part 1, go check it out first. Ready for round 2? Let's begin. That's Jenny Seagrove at 67, the sophisticated actress whose local hero and television work in Judge John Deed made her a familiar face in quality British productions. Her elegance and intelligence shone through every role. This elegant lady is Diana Rigg, though we lost her in 2020 at 82. Her Emma Peel in The Avengers and later Game of Thrones work spanned generations. On Her Majesty's Secret Service made her the only Mrs. Bond. That distinguished gentleman is Ben Kingsley, born Krishna Pandit Banji, whose transformation into Gandhi earned him an Oscar and changed cinema forever. At 81 in 2025, his career from Sexy Beast to Iron Man 3 proves his incredible range. Malcolm McDowell at 81, the intensity behind A Clockwork Orange's Alex DeLarge. His piercing eyes and unsettling charm made him perfect for complex, often villainous roles throughout his career. That's John Hurt, whose distinctive voice and gaunt features made every role memorable from The Elephant Man to Alien. We lost this legend in 2017 at 77, but his haunting performances live on. Coming up, a legendary actor whose career transformation will shock you. Timothy Dalton at 78, the serious Bond who brought Fleming's original vision back to 007 in The Living Daylights. His theatrical background added gravitas to the role after Moore's lighter touch. Christopher Lee, we lost this towering legend in 2015 at 93, but his Dracula defined horror cinema. Later roles as Saruman showed his ability to terrify new generations. Peter Cushing passed in 1994 at 81, but his Van Helsing opposite Lee's Dracula created the ultimate horror movie partnership. His Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars introduced him to new fans. Oliver Reed, we lost this Hellraiser in 1999 at 61 during Gladiator filming, but his intense performances in Women in Love and The Devils showed his raw talent beneath the wild reputation. Richard Harris passed in 2002 at 72, but his King Arthur in Camelot and later Dumbledore showed his ability to be both rugged and tender across decades. Albert Finney, we lost him in 2019 at 82, but his working-class heroes in Saturday Night and Sunday Morning and later Hercule Poirot showed his incredible range. Tom Courtenay at 87, the sensitive actor whose The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner captured working-class Britain. His recent 45 years proves he's still compelling. Alan Bates passed in 2003 at 69, but his passionate performances in Women in Love and The Go-Between made him one of Britain's finest leading men. Terence Stamp at 86, the mod icon whose Billy Budd launched his career. His transformation into character actor in The Limey and Adventures of Priscilla showed his evolution. David Warner, we lost him in 2022 at 80, but his villainous roles from The Omen to Time Bandits made him unforgettable. His Shakespearean training elevated every performance. We're halfway through. Time for the real test of British cinema knowledge. James Mason passed in 1984 at 75, but his smooth voice and sophisticated villainy in films like North by Northwest made him cinema royalty. Dirk Bogarde, we lost him in 1999 at 78, but his evolution from matinee idol to serious actor in Death in Venice and The Servant was remarkable. Jeremy Irons at 76, the aristocratic actor whose voice alone could carry a film. Reversal of Fortune earned him an Oscar, while The Lion King's scar made him iconic to new generations. Alan Rickman, we lost this beloved actor in 2016 at 69, but his Severus Snape and Hans Gruber made him unforgettable. His stage-trained voice was instantly recognizable. Nigel Hawthorne passed in 2001 at 72, but his Oscar-nominated The Madness of King George and Yes, Minister made him a national treasure. John Cleese at 85, the Monty Python legend whose faulty towers and film work like A Fish Called Wanda made him a comedy icon worldwide. Michael Palin at 81, another Python whose travel documentaries made him beloved beyond comedy. His acting in A Fish Called Wanda showed his range. Graham Chapman, we lost this Python in 1989 at 48, but his Brian Cohen and King Arthur made him the troupe's leading man, despite his personal struggles. Terry Jones passed in 2020 at 77, the Python who directed Life of Brian and played the most memorable female characters in drag. Eric Idle at 81, the musical Python, whose Always Look on the Bright Side of Life became a British anthem. His recent Spam-A-Lot proved his enduring creativity. Here's our special. Prepare for a transformation that will leave you speechless. Terry Gilliam at 84, the American Python who became Britain's most visually inventive director with Brazil and 12 Monkeys. His imagination knew no bounds. Rowan Atkinson at 70, whose Mr. Bean made him internationally famous without words, while Blackadder showed his verbal wit. His rubber face made him physical comedy royalty. Hugh Laurie at 65, who went from Blackadder and A Bit of Fry and Laurie to becoming America's highest-paid TV actor as House. His career transformation was remarkable. Stephen Fry at 67, the polymath whose intelligence shines in everything from wild to quiz shows. His wit and erudition made him a national treasure. Richard E. Grant at 67, the character actor whose Withnail and I became a cult classic. His later work in Can You Ever Forgive Me earned him an Oscar nomination. Tim Roth at 63, the intense actor whose Made in Britain and later Tarantino films made him a cult figure. His range from brutal to sensitive was extraordinary. Ray Winstone at 67, the Cockney hardman whose scum established his tough guy credentials before The Departed and Indiana Jones brought international recognition. Rhys Ifans at 57, the Welsh character actor whose Notting Hill roommate role made him memorable, later becoming the Lizard in The Amazing Spider-Man. Get ready, only the most dedicated British film fans will recognize these character actors. Pete Postlethwaite, we lost him in 2011 at 64, but Spielberg called him the best actor in the world. In the Name of the Father and The Usual Suspects proved it. Brian Cox at 78, the Scottish powerhouse whose Hannibal Lecter predated Hopkins. His recent Succession work introduced him to new audiences decades into his career. Robbie Coltrane, we lost this gentle giant in 2022 at 72, but his Hagrid made him beloved worldwide. Earlier work like Mona Lisa showed his serious acting chops. Kenneth Colley at 79, the character actor whose Imperial officer in Star Wars and Jesus in Life of Brian showed his range in iconic films. Warren Clarke passed in 2014 at 67, but his dim in A Clockwork Orange and later Dalziel and Pascoe made him a recognizable face for decades. Frank Finlay, we lost him in 2016 at 89, but his Iago opposite Olivier's Othello and Porthos in The Three Musketeers showed his classical training. Leo McKern passed in 2002 at 82, but his Rumpole of the Bailey and Number 2 in The Prisoner made him unforgettable to British television audiences. George Cole, we lost him in 2015 at 90, but his Arthur Daly in Minder made him a household name after decades of character work. Dennis Waterman passed in 2022 at 74, but his The Sweeney and Minder work made him a fixture of British television and film. John Thaw, we lost him in 2002 at 60, but his Inspector Morse became iconic. Earlier work in The Sweeney showed his range from action to cerebral drama. Kevin Whately at 73, Thaw's partner in both The Sweeney and Inspector Morse, whose loyal sidekick roles made him beloved to British audiences. Lewis Collins passed in 2013 at 67, but his Bodhi in The Professionals made him an action star. His rugged good looks defined 70s British television. Martin Shaw at 79, the other half of The Professionals, whose later Judge John Deed showed his ability to age gracefully into authority roles. Gordon Jackson, we lost him in 1990 at 66, but his Hudson in Upstairs Downstairs and The Great Escape made him internationally recognized. Final stretch, these legends will test even the most devoted British film scholars. Denholm Elliott, we lost him in 1992 at 70, but his bumbling supporting roles in everything from Raiders of the Lost Ark to A Room with a View made him indispensable. Trevor Howard passed in 1988 at 74, but his brief encounter in The Third Man work established him as one of Britain's finest leading men. Jack Hawkins, we lost him in 1973 at 62, but his The Bridge on the River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia work showed his commanding screen presence. Robert Morley passed in 1992 at 84, but his larger-than-life presence in The African Queen and countless British comedies made him unforgettable. Alec Guinness, we lost this night in 2000 at 86, but his Bridge on the River Kwai Oscar and later Obi-Wan Kenobi made him legendary across generations. John Mills passed in 2005 at 97, but his Great Expectations and war films made him the epitome of British pluck and determination. Richard Todd, we lost him in 2009 at 90, but his The Dam Busters and The Longest Day made him synonymous with British wartime heroism. Kenneth More passed in 1982 at 67, but his Genevieve and Reach for the Sky work epitomized the cheerful British spirit of the 1950s. Stanley Baker, we lost him in 1976 at 48, but his The Guns of Navarone and Zulu work showed his ability to be both tough and vulnerable. Richard Burton passed in 1984 at 58, but his Shakespearean voice and tumultuous relationship with Elizabeth Taylor made him legendary beyond his considerable talent. Peter O'Toole, we lost him in 2013 at 81, but his Lawrence of Arabia remains one of cinema's greatest performances. His later work showed remarkable longevity. David Niven passed in 1983 at 73, but his sophisticated charm in Around the World in 80 Days and The Pink Panther made him the epitome of British gentleman. George Sanders. We lost him in 1972 at 65, but his Oscar-winning All About Eve and countless villainous roles made him unforgettable. Stuart Granger passed in 1993 at 80, but his swashbuckling roles in King Solomon's Mines and The Prisoner of Zenda made him an adventure film icon. Lawrence Harvey. We lost him in 1973 at 45, but his Room at the Top and The Manchurian Candidate work showed his dramatic intensity. James Robertson Justice passed in 1975 at 68, but his bombastic presence in the Doctor series made him beloved to British comedy audiences. Terry Thomas. We lost him in 1990 at 78, but his gap-toothed cad in How to Murder Your Wife and British comedies made him instantly recognizable. Leslie Phillips passed in 2022 at 98, but his ding-dong catchphrase and carry-on films made him a British institution across multiple decades. Charles Hawtrey. We lost him in 1988 at 73, but his camp persona in the Carry On series made him a beloved comedy figure. Kenneth Williams passed in 1988 at 62, but his outrageous Carry On performances and radio work made him a British comedy legend. Sid James. We lost him in 1976 at 62, but his dirty laugh and carry-on leadership made him the series' heart and soul. How many did you get in Part 2? Combined with Part 1, these British cinema legends created a golden age of filmmaking that influenced world cinema. From classical training to method acting, from comedy legends to dramatic powerhouses, they proved British talent could conquer any genre. Drop your total score from both parts in the comments. Which part challenged you more? Did the horror legends stump you, or were the character actors your weakness? These actors didn't just perform, they created characters that became part of British cultural identity. Their influence extends far beyond their films, shaping how the world sees British sophistication, wit, and talent. Thanks for joining us on this journey through British cinema history. If you enjoyed both parts, make sure to like, subscribe, and let us know which other decades or countries you'd like us to cover next.